Okay, this is the second part of the lesson. This is called immunity. So what is immunity? Immunity is it is the ability to fight. Okay, it's the ability of the body to fight diseases or disease-causing organisms. Disease-causing organisms. This is called immunity. Now, what's the other name of disease-causing organism? This is called pathogen, right? We can classify immunity into two. These are two types of immunity. The first immunity is innate immunity. Innate immunity we have by birth. At the time of birth, all of us have innate immunity. And in innate immunity, for example, we have many physical barriers. Okay? What are physical barriers? Like skin is a physical barrier. It physically stops the bacteria from entering the body. Mucus is another mucus lining in the nasal cavity, in the trachea. These are physical barriers. And even blood clot is a physical barrier. And we have physiological barrier. Physiological barriers means like the chemicals in the stomach, like hydrochloric acid, kills bacteria. Saliva contains lysozyme, an enzyme. Tears contains this enzyme. These enzymes, the enzyme kills the bacteria. So what's the first one? Physical barriers. They physically stop the pathogens. Physiological barriers, like chemicals in the stomach, kills bacteria. Lysozyme kills bacteria. And the third barrier is cellular barriers. What is a cellular barrier? Cellular barrier is made up of white blood cells or leukocytes, white blood cells of the body. If you remember, white blood cells are made up of nucleus with many lobes, right? So there's a name for this, polymorphonuclear nuclear leukocytes. Polymorphonuclear leukocytes. What's the meaning of leukocytes? White blood cells. Poly means many. Morphologically, there are many lobes in the nucleus. So it's called polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Means white blood cells in simple terms. One example is neutrophil. This we did last year. Okay, neutrophil looks like this, with 3 to 4 lobes in the nucleus. So that's a common name, polymorphonuclear neutrophils, right? Another example is monocytes. Monocyte has kidney-shaped nucleus. What do? They engulf the bacteria. Okay, they can phagocyte, cytosis, and destroy the microbes. And the fourth one is called cytokine barriers. So there are 4 different kinds of barriers. What is this? Cytokine is a chemical produced by cells after being infected by a virus. When a virus infects the cells, what the cells produce? Cytokine. And what the cytokine does? Cytokine prevents infection by the virus in other cells. So when a virus infects our body cells, they release a special cytokine. One example is interferon. Interferon is a cytokine produced by the cells. And what the interferon does? Prevents reinfection of cells by the virus. So these are the features of innate immunity. You know, in a newborn baby, you find all of them. All these are present in a newborn baby. So that's why it's called innate. So we have this from the time of birth, remember. Okay. And the second one is called acquired immunity. Acquired can be uh, active or passive. Okay, it can be active or passive. What's the meaning of active? Suppose you are infected with chicken pox. You got an infection. When you get an infection, you produce memory cells in your body. Memory cells gives you long-term immunity. Okay, what does it give you? Long-term immunity. So this is called active immunity. Active immunity. Active immunity is caused by infections in the body, actual infection, natural infection. Okay, but active immunity is also caused by vaccinations. When you take vaccines, vaccines are artificial. Infections are natural. These vaccines prevent you from the same disease in future. How about passive immunity? Passive immunity we get from other sources. For example, babies get antibodies from mother's milk, okay, or through the placenta,
Colostrum, right?
like colostrum, or even through the placenta. This is passive, and doctors inject you with antibody injections. But these antibodies are made artificially, and that's naturally the baby gets the colostrum or the from the mother's milk. So this is from outside source. So what do you call it? Acquired. Why is it passive? It's temporary. It only lasts for some period of time. It doesn't last for the whole lifetime. So these are known as uh, acquired, and acquired is of two kinds, active and passive. Active lasts for the whole lifetime. Passive lasts only for 2 to 3 months at the most. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask. Okay. Now, immunity can be again of two kinds. This is primary and secondary. Okay? Means this is the response. Primary immune response. And what's the second one? Secondary immune response. So immunity can be primary immune response or secondary immune response. What's primary immune response? Suppose you have a bacteria in your body. That's a bacteria. It enters your body. How do we identify the bacteria? The bacteria is identified by a molecule on the surface of its cell wall known as antigen. Okay? We cannot see the bacteria, but chemically, the white blood cells means lymphocytes. Okay? Lymphocytes identify the antigen. That's a lymphocyte. Lymphocytes have specific receptors. Using those receptors, they identify the antigen. Once lymphocytes identify the antigens, lymphocytes divide by mitosis. And what happens to these lymphocytes? They increase in number. Okay? The number of lymphocytes suddenly increases to millions. And what's the benefit of this? All these lymphocytes can identify this particular bacteria. So you have like an army of lymphocytes. And what do? They release a protein known as antibody. Okay? Antibody is a protein produced by the lymphocytes. And there are different types of antibodies. Okay, antibodies are also known as Ig, immunoglobulin. So they call this like IgA, IgG, IgM, IgE, IgD. Okay, so look at these letters. It's like game, ED, game. Okay, these are 5 different types of antibodies. What's the meaning of Ig? Immunoglobulin. Okay, immunoglobulin is Ig. Okay, IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE and IgG are the five different types of antibodies. Okay, and these antibodies, what do? They stick to the bacteria. They, the antibodies start sticking to the bacteria. Once the antibodies stick to the bacteria is made inactive. And what happens to bacteria? This inactive bacteria is engulfed by the phagocytes. What's a phagocyte? It's a cell that engulfs the bacteria. See? That's a cell. It takes in the bacteria, digests the bacteria, and destroy the bacteria. Okay? And this army of cells, lymphocytes, have no more function. Once the bacteria is gone, they become memory cells. They turn into memory cells, and they give us long-term immunity. This is what gives us long-term immunity. For the whole life, you get the immunity. And this is the reason why when someone has chicken pox, he never gets chicken pox for a second time. Okay? You don't get chicken pox for a second time. And this is called primary immune response. Okay? What is secondary immune response? Imagine someone gets infected by the same bacteria. Okay? Same bacteria for a second time. When the same bacteria enters your body for the second time, the memory cells identify the bacteria and start forming the clone of cells very quickly. This response is really fast, very fast response. Okay, and this is called secondary immune response. In secondary immune response, the response is very fast. Okay, it should be the same bacteria, same virus. If the same virus enters, it causes secondary immune response, right? And here you can see that lymphocytes are forming antibodies, and antibodies produce the immunity. Remember, antibodies produce the immunity. And the second time, the memory cells produce antibodies. Okay, so this is called primary immune response, and that's known as secondary immune response. Yeah, question? We did this one, acquired. Okay, look at antibody. That's a typical antibody. There's a diagram in your reader. You have to learn that. In an antibody, you find two heavy chains. That's one, two. Okay? There are two heavy chains. And there are two light chains, one and two. Two heavy chains and two light chains. And the heavy chains and one heavy chain is connected to one light chain, right? And there's a bond between them. It's called disulfide bond. But we don't learn that. But what do you have to learn? One antibody has four protein chains, polypeptides. Two of them are heavy, two of them are light. So they call this, like in your reader, H2L2. Two heavy chains and two light chains, right? It's like a formula for antibody. Antibody is represented by this, H2L2. What are the different kinds of antibody? Memorize this. IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE, IgD. Okay, look at this. Game. Okay, if you write in this sequence, it's called game. These are the different kinds of antibodies. There are five different antibodies. Remember, right? Lymphocytes produces five different antibodies. This is the structure of a typical antibody. And you have to learn to draw this structure of the antibody. We did this primary and secondary. What is vaccination? Today we are very familiar with vaccination. So What exactly is vaccination? Okay, I'll give you a simple explanation. Suppose we have a disease causing bacteria. So, what scientists do? They take this bacteria, heat the bacteria, and kill the bacteria. After killing the bacteria, this bacteria is injected in the human body. So, body will detect the presence of antigens of bacteria. Antigens are detected by B lymphocytes, isn't it? So that will trigger primary immune response. This will cause primary immune response, right? And in primary immune response, we form antibody, we form memories. Okay. And like in Corona, we had like two vaccine or three vaccine. They call it like booster dose, and later they give them a second dose of the same dead bacteria. Okay. Second dose. When the second dose is given, it will produce secondary immune response, right? But do you get disease? No. Why don't you get disease? Because bacteria is killed, and that's why you don't get the disease. And when you get, yeah, when you get it for the second time, when you get the second dose of booster dose of the vaccine, you produce more lymphocytes, more memory cells, and more antibodies. And
Sir,
Mhm.
could you explain, like, at times whenever last year, whenever some people were immediately after taking the vaccine, like first or second dose, they get a fever,
Yeah, why fever happens? Because you have a bacteria in your body. It could be dead or alive.
but it's killed, right?
Yeah, this is killed. But how does the body identifies the bacteria? Not by it whether it's living or not, by its outer covering, cell wall, and antigens sticking on its surface. So whether it's dead or alive, body count it as an infection. We are tricking the body. Actually, it is killed. It can't cause a disease. But body identify it as an antigen or a foreign body and start attacking it. But we don't get the disease. Okay? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But if you use a virus in the same way, virus is dead. Even if you heat, you're not killing it. Okay? You cannot kill a virus because it's dead. It's a chemical. And you can make them inactive using chemicals. And you can inject in human body. But there's a disadvantage. This virus can come back alive and cause the disease. Okay? There's a high chance for this viral vaccine to cause disease. This actually happened in the case of polio vaccine. When people were given polio vaccine, they actually got polio from the vaccine because this vaccine had inactive virus. And this technique doesn't work with the virus. So, how do they prepare vaccine for the virus? Virus is made up of two things. What's the outer covering of the virus? This is called protein code. It's a protein code that is identified by the lymphocytes. Protein code. So, what scientists did? Using genetic engineering, recombinant DNA technology, means genetic engineering. They learned how to produce only the protein of the virus, only the protein. Okay, even in the case of corona vaccine, many vaccines had only the protein, but Pfizer vaccine was mRNA vaccine. So when they inject the mRNA into your body, the mRNA produce the viral protein in your body, right? Anyway, it's a protein that causes the immune response. So for the viruses, they don't use the heating or making inactive technique. Reason? Viruses can cause a disease. and the viruses are actually dead. Okay, dead viruses. Virus can come back and become alive again. And this is how they produce vaccine for viruses, like hepatitis B vaccine, even corona vaccine, all based on recombinant DNA technology or genetic engineering. Yeah, questions, please. So let's study what is allergy, right? In some people, it happens. Some people, what happens? Immune system, okay, respond excessively. So we call it exaggerated. What is it? Exaggerated response of the immune system. You know what's exaggerated means? Overwhelming response of the immune system. When the immune system respond excessively in some people, not in everyone, you get allergy. You could be allergic to anything. For example, you can allergic to pollen grains. You could be allergic to dust particles. Because in some people, these substances cause exaggerated response to that antigen. Okay. So what do you call this? This is called allergy. How do you control the allergy? In Kuwait, we consume things like cetirizine. You might have heard about cetirizine, right? During allergic reactions, what exactly happens? We have white blood cells, and these white blood cells are known as mast cells. They release a chemical known as histamine in excess amount. And some people have dust allergy. So they get sneezing, watery eyes, running nose, choking, etc. Right? And that's all because of histamine. So anti-allergic substances have antihistamine.
Sir,
Mhm.
I've also heard like whenever I have allergies, I mean, hives start to form on my skin. I mean, it's mostly my experience with allergies.
What kind of allergy you have? Do you have any allergies? Same. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Do you have any allergy? Skin allergy?
Yeah, mostly to like skin allergy. Yeah,
Okay. And if it's
and
skin allergy,
and
your skin gets
and
red.
most of the time, I mean, most of my allergies have been basically hives occurring on my skin.
Yes. Some people have skin allergy. So skin gets red, you might get itching. Those are symptoms of skin allergy. But if it's in the lungs, you get breathing problem. Some people get in the nasal cavity. So it's called sinusitis. They keep sneezing and coughing and they run out of breath. So the allergy symptom depends on the part which is being affected by the allergic substance. Hope it makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is a chemical they take? It's called antihistamine. Kuwait we take cetirizine, right? Cetirizine is an antihistamine, and it neutralize the histamine and the effect of histamine on the cell, right? And today we all live in polluted cities. Because of pollution, allergies increase. Okay, this is called autoimmunity. Autoimmunity means, we have white blood cells, which are supposed to attack the pathogen, which is bacteria and virus or fungi, and destroy them. Okay. But in some people, it's very unusual. Right? In some people, what happens? White blood cells by mistake start attacking own cell, own cells, our own cells. Okay, by mistake. It's a disease, as I told you. Reasons are genetic. Uh, because of the genetic reasons, white blood cells mistakenly attack our body cells. When they attack our body cells, what will happen? The cells are destroyed. Okay. If you have heard about, there is a singer called, okay, forgot her name. Hmm, yeah, I'll recollect her name, right? She is suffering from autoimmune disease. She had a kidney transplant. And uh, what exactly happens? They start destroying, for example, the kidney. So you get kidney failure. In some people, it will attack the pancreas. Okay, yeah, singer's name is Selena Gomez. You know Selena Gomez, right? And she had in recent past, maybe 2 years back, she had a kidney transplant. She is also suffering from a disease called lupus. Lupus is a disease in which white blood cells attack the uterus of a woman, the reproductive system. And she lost her kidney, and her friend donated her kidneys. And if pancreas is attacked, people get type 1 diabetes, right? And in some people, the white blood cells destroy the cartilage in the joints. If cartilage in the joints are destroyed, you get rheumatoid. What is it? Rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. So these are diseases caused by autoimmune, right? There are many diseases, but we just learned rheumatoid disease. Okay. Rheumatoid arthritis. And what exactly is a disease? The disease is caused by our own cells, our own white blood cells mistakenly attacking the body cells. They're not supposed to attack. It's like a country's soldiers. They're not supposed to kill its own citizens. And imagine they go crazy and start shooting around. People of the country will die. This is what happens in some people. And their white blood cells, instead of killing only the bacteria, start killing their own cells. This is known as autoimmune. Yeah, questions, please. Okay. Look at the human lymphoid organs. Right? Immune system is composed of lymphocytes mainly. And lymphoid organs are organs where the lymphocytes are originated or they are matured. Okay. They are of two kinds. The primary lymphoid organs and the secondary lymphoid organs. Okay. Primary lymphoid organs are bone marrow. What's a bone marrow? The tissue inside the bone. And the thymus. Thymus and bone marrow are the primary lymphoid organ. Okay. And what do you find in these places? In these places you find immature lymphocytes. And they differentiate into lymphocytes. Okay. What are the secondary lymphoid organs? And these are the places where lymphocytes undergo training. They interact with antigens and then it become multiplies, increase in number. So the secondary lymphoid organs are like training schools, like military schools where they get trained. Primary lymphoid organs are like their birthplaces. You know, they are born here. The birthplace is called primary, and the military school is known as secondary. Okay, so what happens in primary lymphoid organs? Here, lymphocytes are either formed and they are matured. Matured means they get bigger and ready to move into the blood, right? So that's like your home. You're born in your home and you grow up in your home. And once you are grown up sufficiently, you might be sent to a military school for training in the arms, to fight a war, for example. That's a secondary lymphoid organ. Secondary lymphoid organs, uh, these cells become more effective. They are known as effector cells. Okay. And uh, for example, what are the secondary lymphoid organs? One is called thymus. Where do you find the thymus? Thymus you find just above the heart, okay, on the chest. We studied in endocrine system, thymus gland. Thymus gland is like a military school where uh, where the lymphocytes are trained to identify the antigens. Okay. Then you find the spleen. Okay. Spleen is a large organ you find next to the stomach. This is the spleen. And it has lymphocytes and phagocytes. Okay. It functions as a filter. And all over the body, can you see lymph nodes? These are called lymph nodes. In the lymph nodes and the spleen, the lymphocytes are stored and the antigens are filtered in these places. Okay. So when the antigens come there, the lymphocytes interact with the antigens. One more secondary lymphoid organ is called MALT. Well, okay. MALT represents mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. Means you find this tissue you find in the respiratory tract and in the digestive tract, in the urinary tract. So in general, we call it MALT, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. And scientists say that 50% of the tissue is this. So you can imagine how spread out MALT is. MALT is all over the body. Below the mucous membrane, you find the presence of MALT. So these are the human lymphoid organs. They are classified into two, primary and secondary. What is primary? Primary lymphoid organs are the places where the lymphocytes are
These
born.
lymphocytes, they start to mature.
Yeah, they are formed, they are matured. Okay, and so the main primary organ is bone marrow, right? And thymus is the place where they are mature, right? Okay, and spleen. In the spleen, they are mature. I mean, they are trained. Thymus, they are trained. Spleen, they are trained. Lymph nodes, they are trained. In malt, they are trained. Here, they are formed and mature. So that's the difference between secondary and primary lymphoid organs. Okay. Questions, please. Okay, this is a disease called AIDS. The lesson is about human diseases. And that's a disease which affect our immune system. That's what we studied here. Okay. This is a disease which affects our immune system. What's the expansion of AIDS? Acquired, and immunodeficiency syndrome, right? And like in your generation, you have seen appearance of a new disease, which is COVID. When COVID started, even scientists didn't know what is it. Similarly, in 1981, when AIDS started, scientists couldn't identify the disease. So they just called the patients who came to the hospital. They said that these patients have acquired, they got deficiency, means lack of immunity. Okay. And syndrome means a group of symptoms. They were showing many symptoms, not just one symptom. In every person, the symptoms were different and many symptoms were appearing. Okay. And this was uh, in fact, the name given, long name. Okay. The patients which they found in 1981 in the hospitals, the doctors couldn't identify the disease. So they said that these people have acquired immuno, means immunity, deficiency, lack of immunity. These people have acquired deficiency of immunity. And syndrome means a group of symptoms. Okay. It is caused by a disease, virus called HIV, human immune immunodeficiency virus or immunovirus. Deficiency virus. Okay. How this came to humans, right? There are many theories, but one of the most scientific theories this. It started in African jungles, In African jungles, uh, you know, killing chimpanzees is like prohibited because they are facing extinction. But in many African countries, the chimpanzee meat is a delicacy. Like in Kuwait, in the Kuwaiti wedding, they prefer to have camel meat. Okay. Similarly, in African weddings, they go for this chimpanzee meat. Chimpanzees are endangered species, so killing them is banned. And there are that's illegal, killing of the chimpanzees, and there's a meat trade in the jungles. And the chimpanzees have a virus, SIV. It's called simian immunovirus. It doesn't cause any serious illness in the chimpanzees. And scientists assume that this virus entered through the wounds on the butcher's hands. Okay? Through the wounds, it entered butcher's bodies and they got mutated. Mutation happened in the human body. And after the mutation, it could survive in the human body and it become HIV. This is the most accepted theory which explains the origin of the AIDS. Regarding the origin of COVID, still there are many theories. One theory says that it started in China. Another one says that the US laboratories, it was leaked to China and so on. Okay, many theories, but still we are not sure about the origin of HIV. I mean the COVID. But this almost after studies they found out this could be the possible origin. Okay, this is called AIDS. And how do we get? How is it transmitted? It is transmitted by unprotected sexual intercourse. Okay, if people have unprotected sexual intercourse, that's what causes disease. What's unprotected means without using condoms. And second one, blood transfusion. How? From infected people, right? In some poor countries, they keep selling the blood for money. And these people could be infected with the virus. And if they take the blood without checking, that causes disease. Through the infected needles, needles used in the syringes. The needles, infected needles can cause spread, transmission of uh, the virus. People who are drug addicts, they use the same needle over and over and they keep sharing the needle. Sharing of the needle also causes transmission of the disease. Once a virus enters your body, it's straight away go to your CD4 lymphocytes. Okay, there you can see. This is CD4 cell, means CD4 lymphocyte. And what exactly it does? The virus has an enzyme known as reverse transcriptase. First, it stick to the receptors on the lymphocyte, and lymphocyte take it by mistake, assuming that it's a human cell, and allow the virus to enter. Once it is inside, there's an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. This reverse transcriptase change RNA of the virus to DNA. Right? What's the genetic material? It's RNA. But this enzyme will convert RNA to DNA. And there's another enzyme, integrase. Integrase will add the viral DNA. Viral DNA is added to the human DNA. Okay, the blue color is the human DNA. So, where is the virus now? Virus is in our DNA. It become part of our DNA, and it's inside the DNA. By staying there, the genetic material of the virus form copies, okay, of viral RNA, and it produces viral proteins. Viral proteins and RNA get assembled. Once they get assembled, they come out as adult, completely matured HIV. And when the virus comes out, it gets a covering of human cell membrane. See, this is actually human cell membrane. HIV is a virus, this is the virus. Which is a virus? This box-like thing. That's a protein coat. This part is a protein coat, which is a virus outside. I mean, inside. And what is outside? The cell membrane. From where? From the human cells. Those are the outer covering is cell membrane from human cells, right? So they are known as enveloped viruses. Hope you understood this. The virus, after entering the body, binds to the receptors. Those are the receptor proteins on what cells? CD4 lymphocytes. This is a lymphocyte. On the surface of lymphocyte, they bind to the receptors. After binding to the receptor, the virus enters the cell, and the RNA of the virus is converted to DNA. And there's an enzyme called integrase. The integrase add the DNA to human DNA. Okay, integrase adds the DNA to human DNA, and by hiding in the human DNA, the DNA of the virus produces copies of viral RNA and proteins, which assemble into a complete virus. And when it comes out of the virus, it gets a covering of the cell membrane. See, that's a cell membrane covering. And what's happening to lymphocytes? Lymphocytes are supposed to produce antibodies, but right now it is becoming a factory of virus. It keeps producing virus, and at last lymphocytes die. Okay, and when the lymphocytes die, your immunity goes down. So, what do you call this kind of virus? This is called a retrovirus. A retrovirus has reverse transcriptase enzyme. That's why they call it retrovirus. HIV is a retrovirus. Okay. And over a period of time, all your lymphocytes die. Lymphocytes die. That means in your body, lymphocytes decrease. When your lymphocyte decreases, you start getting symptoms. Remember, it takes 10 to 15 years for the symptoms to appear. It begins with the fever, or it could be diarrhea, or it could be sudden weight loss. Okay, and you start getting infections, the ones we studied in the previous part of the lesson. Okay, mycobacterium, viruses, fungi, and all these infections appear. and the patient dies from other diseases. And remember, there's no treatment for the disease. Okay. Till now, scientists are unable to find out a treatment. Okay. Treatment for the disease. All right. Yeah. Questions, please, if you have any. Right. How do you find out if someone has HIV, the disease? There's a technique called ELISA, right? And for corona, there's a special technique. And similarly, for HIV, there's a special technique. It's called ELISA. Okay, it's called enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. It's in our syllabus. We'll study it later. So I'm not going to explain it. Okay, this is a technique to detect presence of HIV in your body. And remember, there's no treatment, but there are antiretroviral drugs. And what do? They slow down the infection and multiplication, but they cannot stop any completely prevent and cure the disease. No, virus keeps changing all the time. So when we make a new drug, virus become different, and our drug become useless. Because to make a drug, it takes at least 1 year. In 1 year time, virus become different. Okay. That's the next disease. It's called cancer. And we are familiar with the term cancer. What exactly is cancer? Cancer is uncontrolled division of cells. Okay? Our cells divide, but this is uncontrolled division of cells, right? In the cancer cells, our cells have got many regulatory mechanisms. What the cells do? Mitosis. Mitosis controlled cell division. Cancer is uncontrolled division. Okay, it's like a mitosis but uncontrolled, right? And when the cells stick to each other, they have the tendency not to divide. But in cancer, the cells get separated from the other cells, so they keep dividing faster. Okay, and this is called contact inhibition. What is contact inhibition? When the cells are touching each other, it actually uh, inhibit the uncontrolled growth. But if they are not touching each other, they keep multiplying and increasing quickly. Okay, cancer cells don't have this property, contact inhibition. And suppose someone has a cell which keeps dividing for a while, maybe for almost 5 years. And after 5 years, what do you get at that spot? It's not one cell, millions of cells. This is known as a tumor. Okay, what is it? Tumor. Tumor means it's a swelling created by continuous division and growth of cells in that particular area, right? It's uncontrolled. And if you look at the nucleus, chromosome number, they all are different in every cell. And tumors are of two kinds. From some tumors, like here you can see, some tumors are very loose. The cells keep drifting away from the tumor. Okay? What you're seeing here is a tumor. From the tumor, cells keep breaking away and they go to other parts of the body, stick there, and form a new tumor. And this is called malignant cancer. Or the tumor is called malignant tumor. In malignant tumor, cells from the tumor break away, go to other parts of the body, stick in those parts of the body, and form new tumors. Right? So this is known as malignant, okay, or malignant cancer, malignant tumors. Right? The other one is benign tumor. In benign tumor, cells don't get drifted away from the tumor. There's a tumor, but all the cells of the tumor remain stuck to each other. Okay, stuck to each other. So less chance of this spreading around. So this is easy to control and treat. You can just remove the tumor and stop the cancer from spread. Okay, and there's another name for this: neoplastic tumor. Malignant tumor are also known as neoplastic tumor because of their ability to uh, divide rapidly, spread around the body, and produce new tumors all around the body. Okay. Yeah. Questions, please. Okay. And one more term. What do you call the drifting away of the cells? It's called metastasis. So, okay. Metastasis. What is metastasis? When the cells drift away from the tumor. This is called metastasis. Okay. So, what causes the cancer? What are the causes of cancer? One cause could be mutation that happens in our body. Okay. One common reason is the genes mutation. In some families, you find in every generation, many people die from cancer. So they have that gene, a mutated gene. Second reason, ionizing radiation. What's ionizing radiation? Something like X rays. And the third reason, non ionizing radiation, like UV rays. Okay. UV rays can also cause cancer. Then there are chemicals called carcinogens. Carcinogens are chemical that causes cancer. Okay. Those are known as carcinogens. And these are the causes of mutation. I mean, causes of cancer. Mutation, ionizing radiation like X rays, non ionizing radiations like ultraviolet rays, and carcinogen. Where do you find carcinogen? In the tobacco smoke, tar, in the tobacco smoke, you can find the presence of carcinogen. Okay. These reasons you have to memorize. Okay. Causes we did. Okay. How do you treat it? First of all, you need to detect it. How do you detect it? One method is called biopsy. What is biopsy? Uh, Number one, doctors will scan your body. They use different kinds of scanning, like they can use radiography, X-ray. They can use CT scan, right? Or they can use MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Using these techniques, they scan and locate the position of the tumor. Once they identify the tumor, they take cells out of the tumor using a syringe. This is called biopsy. Okay, what's a biopsy? It's a technique of removing the cells from the tumor and then they study these cells to identify whether this tumor is cancerous or non-cancerous. Some of the tumors could be non-cancerous. They just call it a growth. Okay, they don't call it a tumor, just a growth. So this is the detection. After the detection, you can start the treatment. What's the name of the treatment? Chemotherapy. Chemicals that stop cell division are injected into the body. So that means every cell in your body stops dividing. Okay, you might have heard this chemotherapy. And the drugs are known as chemotherapeutic drugs. How do they function? It will stop all cell division in our body. Okay, it will stop each and every uh, cell division happening in the body. For example, your hair keeps growing all the time because of cell division. your glands are repaired by cell division and everything stops. So, you have problem in digestion, your hair falls off, and your white blood cells don't divide. So, you get low immunity. These are side effects of chemotherapy. Okay, that's one way of preventing the cancer from growing. And the next one is radiotherapy. Okay, and in radiotherapy, using special rays, they kill the cells around the tumor. Tumor is destroyed, taken out by surgery, and using radiotherapy, they destroy the abnormal tissue around the tumor. So this is called radiotherapy and chemotherapy, right? And in some cases, they also use genetic engineering. There's a new technique in which they take out your white blood cells and put specific genes in the white blood cells to identify the cancer cell, and they destroy the cancer cell, right? So it's called immune therapy, and but we don't study it. It's not in our syllabus. Hope you understood the treatment. Okay. Okay. That's the third part of the lesson. So there are basically three parts in the lesson. When you study, study like count it like three different parts. The first part talk about diseases, how the diseases spread, and some of the examples. Second part is about immunity, immune system. How does it function? And one disease related to the immune system. And then the cancer, a disease. The third part, you talk about the drugs. Okay, drugs, right? Different kinds of drugs. Alcohol, alcohol abuse, right? So let's study about the drugs. So what exactly is a drug? Drug is a chemical. It's a chemical substance which alters the metabolic reactions in the body. This is the definition of drug. Okay, what's a drug? Drug is a chemical which changes the metabolic reactions in the body, right? So the abused drugs. What are the common abused drugs? The common abused drugs are like the first one, opioids. Second one, cannabinoids. And the third one, coca alkaloids. Okay, learn them. Opioids, cannabinoids, coca alkaloids. These are the three classes of drugs. Okay, three classes of drugs we'll be talking about. Okay. And that's the opioids. Okay, it goes like opioids. Opioids. And where are the opioids made from, right? Right? Opioids are like opium. Opium is made from this plant. Okay, opium plant. That's a beautiful flower, but this is the fruit of the plant. And you know what they do? Using a blade, they put cut marks in the evening. By morning, a glue comes out, and they collect this glue. It's this glue which is used as that's the opium. You know, the glue is called opium, and from this glue, the opium, the drugs are obtained. Okay, in countries like India, Pakistan, you know, they directly use the opium. It's a common thing. It's not a big deal, right? And it affects our central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract. Okay, gastrointestinal tract. And the second drug, which is called heroin, they also call it like smack. Chemically, this is called diacetyl morphine. You might have heard about morphine. Morphine is a painkiller, and that's how it looks like. It looks like a white powder, colorless, odorless, and it tastes better and bitter. Okay, and it's obtained from uh, the opium, and it's produced by uh, acetylation of morphine. You know, acetyl group is added to the morphine, so it's called diacetyl morphine. And what's the name of this plant? Okay, the plant is known as papaver somnifer. Papaver somniferum. This is the name of the plant, Papaver somniferum. And this is called, the glue is called opium. Opium can be directly used. From the opium, they produce morphine. On the morphine, they add acetyl group. So you get diacetyl morphine, which is the heroin. Okay. How do they take it? By snorting, they take the powder, snort it, using the nose, they smell it into the lungs, snorting. Or they dissolve it in the water, inject it in the body. Okay. These are two ways in which they take the drug in. Right. This is called cannabinoids, right? Uh, you might have seen this in the pictures. And in India, this is known as the ganja, right? Hashish, charas, okay, marijuana, etc. These are the names of this plant. If you go to places like Kerala, you find it growing in many places in the hilly areas. You can find them. But if police find the plant growing around, they destroy it. Okay. And people grow them secretly in their balconies, inside the house, and they use it. Okay. And what do you find in these leaves? The plant contains a class of chemicals known as cannabinoid, cannabinoid compounds, right? Cannabinoid compounds. We have receptors for these compounds in the brain. What is a receptor? Brain cells have molecules sticking out. So when someone smokes this, the cannabinoid compounds go and bind to that and stimulate the brain cells. All right. And which part of the plant is used? They use the leaf, they use the flower, they use the even the stem, inflorescence, dry this, powder it, and turn it into a cigarette. Okay. This powder is filled inside the cigarette. They empty the cigarette and fill it with the powder of leaf, flower, and stem, and that's how they smoke. Okay. What's the name of the plant? It's called cannabis sativa. Name of the plant is cannabis sativa. Okay, and uh, they use different combinations of depends flower, stem, leaf, etc. Right? And what are the other names of this? Like hashish. In some places they call it ganja. In India, there is a celebration called Holi. During Holi, they drink something called bhang. Maybe you might not have heard this, but people who live in India, on day of Holi, they drink bhang. Bhang is actually the leaves of the cannabis plant, dissolved in water, ground in water, like a chutney. They take a scoop of chutney of this leaf, mix in the milk and drink, and it causes euphoria. Okay, intense euphoria. Right. This is another form used in India. Okay, and they in other countries they call this like marijuana. Okay, and another name is like charas. So these are other names taken by oral. Orally, it is taken like bhang is taken orally. Some countries they chew it, and most of the time they smoke it, and it gives you a high. It has effect on your brain and cardiovascular system, like heart and the respiratory system. So this class of compound is called cannabinoids.
So,
Yeah.
if it's from plants, how is it bad?
You know, plants contain chemicals which kills. If you keep taking this plant, this chemical, it will damage your brain. You know,
Oh,
okay? Plants contain chemicals which can actually kill humans. You know, in India, you can see a weed known as calotropis. If animals eat that plant, they die. And there are leaves which, if eaten by humans, it will kill us. Okay? And this is addictive. That's the problem.
okay.
Okay? Right. That's cocaine, another drug. And this is the plant. Name of the plant is erythroxylum coca. Okay, erythroxylum coca. It's a South American plant, South American culture, Incas and Mayas. They found it, they discovered this drug. But today, what the modern people did, we started extracting the chemical from that, right? So, what exactly it does? If you remember, the synapse you studied in class 11, there are receptors in the synapse. Okay. And when someone takes the drug, the molecules of the drug are complementary to the synapse. So instead of neurotransmitter, the drug binds there, right? And after binding it on the receptors, it stimulates the neurons, and the neurons produce a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is known as a happy hormone, okay, produced by the nervous system. And because of the drug, the brain produces excess of dopamine. That means you feel good, you feel very happy, you forget your problems, and you get hallucinations. And you see unreal things happening right in front of you. That's hallucination. It's like, you passed out class 12 with 100% marks, you got a rank, you're driving the best car, you're dancing with your friends. It's not happening, but you see it's happening. This is called hallucination. And you become extremely happy. So it's called euphoria, right? Your energy level goes up, right? And continuous use will cause the death of neurons because neurons are getting overstimulated unnecessarily. And this is called cocaine. Mostly cocaine is taken in the as snorting or as injections. Okay. And excess use causes severe addiction, and you cannot come out of this addiction. Okay. So this is the next drug. Even this is taken from plants. Yes. Questions, please. There are a few. I'll explain it here. Okay. We'll start the nicotine now. There are some other hallucinogenic property, drugs obtained from plants called atropa belladonna. It is used in, homeopathic medicines. Okay? Belladonna. There's a drug called belladonna in homeopathy. Then there's a plant called datura. They contain hallucinogenic substances. Okay, and these are two plants, but there are compounds, artificial, synthetic compounds called barbiturates. Okay. Amphetamines. Then there is benzo, okay, diazepine. Okay. These are other drugs similar to uh, they are hallucinogens. Continuous use will cause damage to the brain, mental sickness, depression, lack of sleep, etc. Okay. How about morphine? What's the benefit of having morphine? Morphine is basically a sedative and it's a painkiller. Okay, sedative and painkiller reduces pain, but it's used only for people who suffer from cancer and severe pain, surgical pains, etc. Okay, and but today it is being misused. But if you keep taking morphine all the time, what will happen? That causes addiction. So these are other sources of hallucinogenic substances. These are two plants, Atropa belladonna and Datura. These are artificially made chemical compounds, barbiturates, amphetamines, benzodiazepines, and morphine. Okay, morphine is used in hospitals. Doctors, only doctors can use it. They don't sell it in the pharmacy. Companies directly give it to the hospital. Illegally made in many countries. That's the next drug, nicotine. How do we take nicotine? In India, you can see nicotine is taken in the form of BD. That's an Indian cigarette. Cigarette is more westernized. Okay, spelling. Okay, cigarette is more westernized bead. The Indian cigarette is a bead. And in India, you can see that, there's something called tambaku. Okay, tambaku is like a powder they keep in the mouth. It's a powder of tobacco. And this snort this powder. In India, you can see. And in India is one place where you find it is taken in many different forms. Okay, even in other countries. And they also chew it, and then they they spit out red liquid after chewing the tobacco, betel leaf, and calcium hydroxide. Okay, chuna. So this is how nicotine is consumed, right? So what do you find in the cigarette smoke? Three basic things. Cigarette smoke has nicotine. Then that's a drug. What does it do? This drug stimulates your brain and make you feel good. It causes release of adrenaline. So you feel good. It increases your blood pressure. And moreover, it causes addiction. And this feeling lasts only for maybe 10 minutes or maybe 15 minutes. And after that, you feel down and they smoke again. The second component is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide binds with hemoglobin and form carboxyhemoglobin, which actually stop oxygen transport.
Since carbon monoxide is more soluble than in hemoglobin, right?
More reactive, 200 times more reactive.
Oh yeah.
That's the reason if you breathe in carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide binds with the oxygen. Okay? So that's the effect of carbon monoxide. That means your cells don't get enough oxygen. And the next substance is the tar. Tar is the most harmful substance in the cigarette, tobacco smoke. It causes conditions like emphysema. What's emphysema? Your alveoli breakdown and surface area of alveoli decreases. Tar causes lung cancer, and it is a continuous smoking will completely damage your tar. We have cilia in the lungs, they stop functioning, mucus production increases, and you start coughing. As the lung is not functioning, it will put stress on your heart. So the right side of the heart enlarges because of the excess stress. As the body run out of oxygen, pumping of the heart, right side of the heart to the lung increases. The right side increases in size. And smoking can cause cancer in the oral cavity, in the mouth. Okay. So these are the problems associated with nicotine. Okay. Hope you understood those. Next is alcohol abuse. How people get into alcohol, smoking, and drug abuse. This happens during this age group, 12 to 18. Okay. During teenage, teenagers are very adventurous. They want to try out something new. Okay. And people who are already into the drugs, right? They encourage them to start, trying it out. Just try it out. One try is enough. You will continue to take the drug forever. This is called peer pressure, right? So curiosity, adventure, and excitement to try out new things, experimentation. These are the features of youngsters. And many youngsters feel that it's cool to take drugs because many pop stars, movie stars, they all take drugs because they have excess money and they have everything in life. They are trying to find out new fun in drugs, and this is what forces people, youngsters, to get into the drug. Right? Once you are addicted, your body is dependent on the drug, and you need to increase the quantity. To buy the drug, you need money, and as the dependence become too much, you come to a level where there's no more recovery. Your body is completely destroyed by the drug intake. Okay. And the another drug is alcohol. What's wrong with alcohol? Alcohol is addictive, it's sedative, it slows down your nervous system. And your responses become slow. Slow response. If you drive after drinking, it will cause accidents. Okay. And after many years of drinking, people get fatty liver. This is called liver cirrhosis. Okay? Fatty liver or liver cirrhosis, right? And this can, to overcome alcohol abuse, people have to undergo counseling or they have to go to the de-addiction center, right? Okay, so that's it. And we'll have a test on the previous chapter and this one. So tell me the time you're free to write. Okay, I'll ask you by sending a message. So to write the test, you can come any day during the evenings, anytime until 10 o'clock. But you should come before 10 o'clock. You can come to the institute and write the test there. All right. Thank you very much. And we'll have lesson next Friday, same time. Whenever you get a holiday, school holiday, I'll take a lesson in the morning and teach you. Okay. And if you're before the exam, we'll focus on revision. I think you have a test coming up. So for that, once the test approaches, we'll focus on revising the things. Yeah. Any questions, please ask. Thank you. See you next week.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.